The sun glows hotter than ever, sitting upon its throne of golden-hued skies. A wary Giganotosaurus makes her way across the dry land in search of food. These past few weeks have been very hard on her. A herd of dark gray and tan Argentinosaurus, with lightning stripes across their back, lumber lazily across the arid landscape. Giganotosaurus usually would not pick Argentinosaurus as their first choice of food to tackle, but in these great times of desperation, and with eggs on the way, Naya, the Giganotosaurus, can't help but feel the overwhelming temptation to go and just take a bite.
"Hello, Naya,"
says a wary but stern and rugged voice to her right. The Giganotosaurus turns to her right and sees yet another member of her species, an older male. He usually goes hunting with his brothers. No doubt a very strange behavior for Gigakind, but not so strange for this male, who is very close with his relatives. "Oh, hi Leland, how are you?" says Naya, drooping her head, but then trying to stand tall as to not look weak in front of him. His brother is actually the father of her offspring that are on the way. Naya, despite all the aches and shivers in her bones and body, stands to her full height with her neck erect, trying to about stand over the other male.
"You sure you don't want to join us on our hunt?"
"I'm fine, thank you. I'm just trekking around, checking the territory." He gives her an eye, and looks behind him as if looking to see if there's anyone coming. He chatters his teeth together.
"Have you laid the eggs?"
A question that annoys Naya. "No, I've not laid them yet."
"Well, you let me know when you do."
Naya knows why, as the male Giga claps his jaws together and flashes his head in a showmanship of strength, and then leaps and bounds ahead of her towards the herd, growling and lowing. The herd doesn't really think anything of this. After all, their lead male is so sizable and gigantic that nothing is a threat to him. This male Giganotosaurus roaring and bellowing is the equivalent of a small bug refusing to get from in front of his face. The Argentinosaurus smirks, holds his head up high, and releases a bellow of his own, one that makes the Giganotosaurus's cry pale in comparison. As time goes by, and with much difficulty, Naya has her eggs. Only 2. At the time she has them, she refuses to leave. There have been many smaller predators who had hung out around her, trying to wait for an opportunity so they could steal the eggs, but she would never let that opportunity come. Starving, and her bones weak, and her feeling cold, particularly at nights when the temperature drops, she can do nothing but wait and suffer until her eggs are ready. On the occasion, Naya is able to feed herself when she waits for an egg stealer or a small carnivore who is too nosy for her liking to come close, and then, acting as though she is weak and unable to get up, even though that's exactly how she felt, she would then spring into action as quickly as possible and grab the offender. Out of the 12 times that she's tried this, she's been successful only once, but it was enough to get her through the rest of the waiting period until her eggs finally hatched. And when they did, it was the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. In that instant, a switch went on in her head, and she would lay down her life to protect her young. Her little male and female were very boundless. The whole world was their sandbox, and they had no idea of what danger was. Gia, the female, and Otto, the male, complemented each other perfectly. They were now old enough that they could go on treks with their mother. No longer did she have to bring back food to feed them. When the babies had hatched, after only a few days, Naya had taken them up into her mouth and brought them to someplace reclusive. Predators would still try to get at them, but Naya had covered it up with rocks and bushes and thorns as to not make it easy for any would-be assailants. As Naya is walking on a particularly hot day, her 2 children following behind her, their tails wagging wildly, she rolls her eyes inwardly, just needing a break from all their chatter and noise. Otto pushes into Gia playfully. "See, I am stronger than you. Not just 'cause you're bigger. Mama says sometimes when you're smaller, you can be more powerful." "Yeah, but you can't take me off my feet," Bet you can't. Oh yeah? Bet I can. Bet you can't, little one.
Bet I can!
Enough from both of you. Naya roars and snaps her jaws shut, a sound that reminds the little ones of the thunder in the skies. Otto hangs his head shamefully. I'm sorry, Mama. He never likes it when his mother is angry at him. Gia, however, finds it entertaining. She loves seeing her mother show her strength. Mama, that was cool. Can you do it again? I want to do that with my jaws.
Trust me, Gia, you'll get the opportunity to do that. But the both of you are scaring all the prey away,
Naya says, her tail swishing and her stopping to turn around and face her son and daughter. She continues walking while looking at them and then faces forward. If you two are going to be hunters, you're going to have to learn the most difficult thing of all. Naya lets the statement hang in the air, knowing that her children will ask her what she means. What is it, Mama? To be quiet, Otto and Gia. Oh, wow. For many miles, Naya leads her children over the rocky and sandy terrain. The air is dry, and there's been no water. This is the first time that her children have felt the bite of survival. Their mother's always been there to protect them, to feed them, without them ever questioning where the food came from, or what they would do if she was no longer there to provide it for them. Over the next few hours, Otto and Gia complain, and all of a sudden, they're not having fun anymore. Their mouths are clamping together because of how dry they are. Their feet hurt from walking, the longest they've ever had to walk before. Their tails hang in defeat, their necks are low, and their heads feel very heavy, more than usual. Mama, Otto says, hoping his mom will have pity on him. I'm tired. How much longer are we gonna have to walk? Naya stops and turns around to face her offspring. She leans over, her bones audibly creaking, and she nuzzles her small son. This is part of you building muscles, Otto. You're going to have to walk for many miles so that you can get food. But I'm tired. Why do we have to walk and not stop? Gia smacks her lips, feeling the thirst. It is aggravating, and seeing her brother like this makes her also irritated. Not at him, but at the whole situation. For the first time in her short little life, she feels as though life is unfair, and that their mother isn't taking care of them, but she dare not say anything. What she likes most of all in the world is to look strong to her mother. One day, she wishes to be even stronger. I know you're thirsty. We can rest for a few, and we must get up immediately and continue. There are dangers out here. It's not safe for you to stay in one spot for very long. Why not, Mama? Asks Gia curiously. You'll find out soon enough, dear, says Naya, who leans on the ground and then drops her belly towards it, curling in her hind legs and sitting like a sphinx. She then lays her head down and dozes off. Gia and Otto are so tired they have no other recourse but to curl up next to their mother, right next to her tummy, and fall asleep as well. Otto was roused by his sister and mother. Otto, get up now, son, Naya says, with a sense of urgency in her voice. She growls low and is only looking in one direction and not at her offspring. I'm still tired. My feet hurt. I said, get up. Naya snaps her jaws shut, and this time they make a lower booming noise. He has no idea how his mother was able to make that noise, and it's not a noise he's ever heard her make before. For some reason, that gets him into gear, and he gets up quickly on his aching feet and looks at his mother, wondering why she's staring like that. Gia also looks very afraid, and this unnerves Otto. He then hears a strange noise diagonally to the left of him. In the distance is a group of about 5 powerful theropod-looking dinosaurs. They look like his mother, but not quite the same. Naya instructs her offspring to get behind her. She takes a low defensive posture and looks into the distance. These creatures are only about 12 yards away, and from her making that posture, trying to blend in with her surroundings, their attention is caught by her sudden and very tense movements. They seem to chatter something to each other, and then, in an instant, with their two powerful hind legs, they go charging straight towards Naya and her family. She wants to run. Everything inside her is telling her to run, but she knows very well if she does run, firstly, they could catch up to her. Secondly, even if she could get away, her children cannot. Gia and Otto can hear the fear in their mother's voice. "Stay behind me. Stay under my legs." "Mama, what's happening?" asked Gia, scared, seeing the other dinosaurs approaching them. "Don't worry. Just stay underneath me. No matter what happens or where I move, always stay beneath my feet. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mama," says Otto, who surprisingly is more calm than Gia is in this moment. Gia has always been the brave one, but now that they're actually faced with real danger and fear they've never felt before, he feels calm and feels as though it's his responsibility to keep his sister calm as well. As the group of Mapusaurus catch up to her, they quickly surround her and her children and circle her like hyenas circling prey. They chatter something that Naya cannot understand, but there is one universal language that these creatures do understand, and it's growling. As soon as Mapu emits a growl, one of the clay-colored creatures with very large black spots up and down their back snaps at her in her direction. While it gets her attention, the other four go behind her and try to get to her offspring. In all truth, these Mapusaurus are just bored. They're a family group, closely knit. The oldest sibling is the one who makes all the decisions as to where they'll go, what they'll eat. And now, while the sun is bright and there is not much food or entertainment, seeing another lone creature just standing there waiting to be picked off was inviting to him and his group. Because these Mapusaurus were so close, Naya could smell them, the stink of meat coming from their breaths, the scent of their oils being excreted from their skin, and also the smell of their discharge. She could make out their jittering eye movements. Even though they weren't saying much, they maybe uttered trills here and there. Most of the communication these creatures seem to have been doing were via the use of their very red eyes. They also flicked the tip of their black tails around in circles, followed by other movements by the rest of the members. The mother Giganotosaurus realized that they were communicating with each other. Even if she wanted to break for it now and run, it would leave her children in a vulnerable position, and it would also lead her in a vulnerable position as well. The trembling and protective mother Giganotosaurus snaps her jaws straight at one of the Mapus. They growl in return. Then, in an instant, as the mother Giganotosaurus opens her mouth, her teeth being bared, the Mapu replies in kind, at least the one in the front, the other four surrounding her on her sides, the other two behind her, waiting for an opening to grab her babies, also hiss in unison. And then, seemingly without warning, the Mapu attacks, chomping down mercilessly on the upper part of Naya's snout. She howls in pain but quickly thrashes her head around so she can loosen the grip of the Mapusaurus, and it works. Once again, her mouth is open and she is snapping at the sides and making sure that her offspring are underneath her. She momentarily tucks her head in to count her offspring and to make sure that Otto and Gia are both still alive. They're both terrified, but are doing their best to obey her orders and stay underneath her. Once again, the Mapusaurus all circle the Giganotosaurus. The leader is now behind her and the others are up front. They circle around again until the leader is once again in front, making such a tight circle that it's nigh impossible for Naya to get out of it. After a while of this, seemingly about 45 minutes, Otto and Gia, feeling their thirst increase as time goes on, the Mapu stop circling, and some of them seem to lose interest. They click to each other and do that tail-whipping motion that now annoys Naya to no end. The leader stares through her eyes, as though trying to pierce her soul. And then after a very good few 5 minutes, he reluctantly tears his eyes away and follows the rest of his siblings. They walk off away from the Giganotosaurus family and back seemingly to the direction that they were walking before. Naya is still breathing hard. Her adrenaline is through the roof. Her offspring are okay. "Otto, Gia, are you alright?" Yes,
Yeah, we're
Mama.
okay.
Naya gently lifts her leg from over her offspring and then nuzzles them both. They both coo and cry. After that ordeal, Naya made sure that she trekked in a completely different direction than the Mapusaurus. Seeing the Argentinosaurus herd from earlier, Naya feels a sense of comfort, and then she sees an opening. There are some smaller theropods nearby the herd. Goodness knows what they're doing, but Naya takes this as an opportunity to hunt. She quickly turns around and snaps her jaws gently in the direction of her offspring, which tells them to stay where they are. She then runs down the rocky slide, almost missing her footing with the rocks falling out from beneath her, kicking over a few dried up shrubs, and heads straight towards the herd. The creatures are on the other side of the herd, so they can't really see from their vantage point the sizable Giganotosaurus heading their way, running with the grace of a crane. By the time they realize what's happening, and with her body blending in so well with the dust cloud that's being kicked up by the herd, and by her, it's too late. Dinner is served. The moon is shining from above. It casts an ethereal glow over the landscape and the bodies of the Giganotosaurus family. Otto and Gia are so thankful. Thanks, Mama. This is amazing. I will say this is the biggest thing you've eaten so far, and one day you'll be able to catch stuff like this on your own. But for now, eat. Aren't you gonna have some? Asked Gia, looking at her mom. Don't worry about me. You eat all that you can right now. My job is to watch. Naya gets up from her sitting position and circles around her babies, looking all around, still on edge from what happened earlier, to make sure that they eat in peace and that nothing sneaks up on them in the night. The next morning, Naya is ready to go. Her daughter and son awake with their bellies full. She had picked the rest of the carcass clean, at least as much as she could. There are some smaller creatures in the air and on the ground, only a few yards away, that are just staring at them. What are they, Mama? Don't worry about them. They're here to make sure that larger predators aren't attracted to the area. Come, we must walk now. Those larger predators I talked about would have seen them coming here, and they'll find us. Why did those things attack us? They look like us. Yes, they do look like us, but they were not like us. You have to always be mindful, Gia. Never trust anyone, not even other members of her kind. Do you understand? Yes, Mama. The sun on its way to its zenith, on its way stretching lazily towards its throne. The land is bathed in a golden glow and a soothing and not merciless warmth. It doesn't take very long or very far for Naya and her children to find a watering hole where they drink water and prepare for their trek back to their nest. The end.